We failed to give ourselves permission to win. We failed to give ourselves permission to overcome. We failed to give ourselves permission to be strong and powerful. Drop the ego and show up humble. When we do that, we're able to really open up to where it is that we're needing to come. You were built to win, to overcome, to grow, to be strong, to be powerful. But unless you tap into that, you forget about it. When something happens to you inside, you leave different, and it transcends into every area of your life.
This is the Own It Show, where we tell stories of how everyday people made ownership theirs.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Own It Show. I'm your host, Justin Rothling-Schofer, and if you're new here, it is so good to be with you. You can take a look back at our last 150, 200 episodes and really just dive deep into the solo pods, the guests that we've had on this show. And our mission here is really to help you live long and lead well, so that you can ultimately step into the version of you that God's created you for. And when you can continue to live different, you're now pulling those people around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, your teams, every single person that's in your influential sphere for that matter, you're going to be able to create massive change with. And today, I'm really excited about this episode. This episode's been something that I've been really kind of leaning into, because if you've looked at my social media over the last, 2 weeks, I've talked a lot about what I'm about to do in November in Dallas, and that's the Hight Rocks Games. And if you're not familiar with Hight Rocks is something that started back in 2019. And what Hight Rocks is, it started in Europe actually. And what it is it's a form of training, but it's a race, but it's a form of training that is what they are calling hybrid style training. So really focused on metabolic conditioning, very focused on strength and power, and being able to do it over a long period of time. So aerobically, anaerobically, and strength and power wise, it is just a beautiful balance and intersection point. Now, we wouldn't train professional athletes this way, but for the common person, hybrid training is phenomenal. And quite frankly, it's something that I've done ever since I stopped playing hockey, ever since I've just started training for me, because it's a great way to train for life. And at Own It, it's a philosophy that we really lean on for all of our clients that we train and all the clients that we work with, and what we try to incorporate into people's daily lives, because it's efficient, it's powerful, and it really makes you strong, lean, and what I just call like unstoppable in a lot of different ways. And so I'm a big fan. Now, the Hight Rocks race specifically has 8 different stations. It's not like CrossFit where they change up the workouts all the time. It's one thing that you're doing every single time, and you're trying to get a better time and chasing that. And so there's 8 different stations. There's a lunge station with 60 pounds. There's a farmer's walk. There's a sled push. There's a sled pull. There is a row. There's a ski erg. There's a burpee long jump. So those are those 8 stations. And in between each station, there's a 1 kilometer or 1,000 meter run. And so you can imagine doing this over the course of 50, 60, 70, 80 minutes, however long it takes you. There's a need to be strong. There's a need to be powerful. There's a need to have aerobic endurance and being able to do it over a long period of time. And so it's really, really challenging. And so I've leaned in, and I'm going to go back to Hight Rocks in November. And if you've heard me talk about this before, I'm not new to Hight Rocks. I've been in it for a long time. I ran one of the first races in America back in 2019. I ended up winning my age category. I ended up going to nationals that year, and I won nationals. They took obviously a break for COVID. When they came back from COVID, I ran singles again, but then also did doubles that year and ended up winning the US championships for both individual age and pro doubles, and went to Worlds. And I don't know if I've told this story a lot, but in 2022, as I was going back to the US championships, I started just get massive anxiety every time I went to do one of these races. And I felt that I was, again, going back to like performing, feeling that I was having to perform, not just because it was something I was challenging myself in, but because I had to perform in order to show my worth and in order to have my value presented there. And so I actually took the year of 2023 off. I stepped back. I did a few DECA races, which is it's the exact same thing, but more on the Spartan circuit. And I just really took time off because I needed to heal my identity. I needed to heal what was going on internally. And as I started as I took that year off and really went through some of these other things and started to train differently, I did a marathon during that year. I did a triathlon during that year. And I just went back to, not for a certain time, but just to complete it, just to do something new, just to do something different. And there was really 4 things that I really learned over the course of taking this time off that I want to come back to speak to you guys about today, because within these 4 things, it really changed the way that I saw health and fitness. It really changed the way that I saw and ultimately teach mindset and how we teach what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I want to open that up to you, because I think so often we look at people on social media who are running these races, or people who have extreme fitness, or people that we look up to, and we're like, oh, that's just a part of who they are. It's easy for them. It's simple for them. It doesn't hurt them as much as it hurts me. I've got so much room to grow that it's easier for where they are. But I'm here to tell you today, every single day that I step up and I train, it's a push. It's a grind. There's a little bit of fear inside. This morning, I just had 3 guys over with me. David, you've probably seen him on my Instagram. Often he comes every morning and trains. Kai, he comes every morning and trains. JP, he comes over and trains every day as well. And so there was the 4 of us, and they all come to my Redeemed events twice a year. Little shameless plug for Redeemed, happen again in February down here in Miami. But we got up to the start today, and I knew what we were about to do. I knew the workout we were about to go through. And there was a little bit of like anxiety to like, man, this is going to be difficult. This is going to hurt. This isn't going to feel good. And all of a sudden at the very end, as we finished it, as we completed, as I was laying on the grass, just panting, and then looking at everybody else laying on the grass, exhausted, just panting, it gave me this overwhelming feeling of accomplishment, this overwhelming feeling of being able to overcome, this overwhelming feeling of being able to win. And I think that's what a lot of us lack, and what a lot of us continue to shy away from, is that we failed to give ourselves permission to win. We failed to give ourselves permission to overcome. We failed to give ourselves permission to be strong and powerful. But yet that's what we were created for. That's how we were created. That's how we were built. And if we don't give ourselves signs that we're still able to do it, that we're able to overcome, that we're able to win, that we are strong, that we are powerful on a daily basis, it becomes very easy for us to start to lose that mentality. And then we start seeking it in other areas. We start seeking it in business, because that's the only place that it gets for us. We start becoming obsessed with business, obsessed with this, because that's where we get that feeling of overcoming, of feeling of winning, that feeling of strength and power. But then we completely forget our family. We completely forget our health. We completely forget our fitness. We completely forget everything else around us. And if we start to be able to figure out where we can get that same feeling of winning and overcoming and strength and power, that's when you become holistically more healthy. And so I want to come back to these 4 areas and these 4 things that I've really learned through this, and why I lean into this. And so this first one is, you have to show up humble. You have to drop your ego. And when we think about ego and humility, it's being willing to look like a beginner. When I stopped doing Hight Rocks for the year of 2023, I went and stepped into CrossFit gyms. Hadn't done CrossFit since 2014. I went and stepped into 10, 12, 14 mile runs. Hadn't really ever done that in my life. All of a sudden went and started to do triathlon training. Haven't done that since 2012. So a lot of things, I made myself look like a beginner. And guys, like, remember, I'm walking to a CrossFit gym and they're giving me a PVC pipe, learning how to catch bars. They're giving me a empty bar to do overhead squats with, teaching me mobility and strength in different areas that I haven't had. Now, I progressed quickly, but I looked like a beginner. I was willing to look inept. I was willing to look like I didn't know what I was doing. I was willing to be coached. I was willing to be taught. And that level of humility just opened up something for me, that I don't have to have all the answers, that I don't have to be perfect, that I don't have to make sure that everything is in order and it looks well orchestrated, but rather I can just go on the journey, enjoy the process. When I was running that marathon back in February of this past year of 2024 with Rich Wilkerson, I all of a sudden was going up and I was like, you know what? 4 weeks before the race started, it was, hey, I'm not actually going to run this for me. I'm going to run it for him. It was his first one. And so we ended up running it, I think, in 4 hours. Now that's longer than what I would usually run it in, but being able to go and do something with a beginner and help him through, I was able to learn more things about myself, about patience, about being able to endure, about being able to overcome, about being able to just continue to take one more step. Because there were times I was cramping during that race because I was running for an extra hour in the blazing Miami heat. And so I say all of this because we have to come back to this first concept, which is to drop the ego and show up humble. Drop the ego and show up humble. Because when we do that, we're able to really open up to where it is that we're needing to come. Now, dropping the ego is not easy. It's not easy. It's something I continue to struggle with every day and lay it down every single day. And the unique thing about this, I was talking to one of my pastoral friends about 6 months ago, and he said something in regards to ego and fear that really just made so much sense to me. And what he was talking about was how when we have to drop the ego, it brings a level of fear inside of us. And fear is there all the time. Fear can be good or fear can hold us back. But fear is that core component that lives at the center of what we do. And so recognize that fear just happens. So fear can send us one of two ways. It can send us into control and anxiety, which is what I was starting to experience in start lines with Hight Rocks, which is why I stepped away, because it would start to show up in frustration, in anger, in bitterness, and resentment. And it would take a massive toll on you from a health standpoint. But fear can also step into the other side, which can lead you into curiosity and humility. And when you go into the side of curiosity and humility, it gives you a sense of freedom. And that's what I was able to experience when I started to go into the CrossFit gyms, when I started to go and start these 13, 14, 15 mile runs that we would do in preparation for the marathon. Is I would go in as a beginner, not really knowing what I was doing, not having any expectation, not making sure that I was striving to be the best, but that I was willing to learn through this process so I could continue to improve and get better and ultimately get more comfortable in where I was. And so we have to choose, what side of fear are we going to go with? Are we going to partner with the enemy? Or are we going to go into control and anxiety? Or are we going to partner with God and go into being humble and curious? And that's how we show up in humility, which then brings us to the second piece, which is commit. You have to commit to something different. You have to commit to something unique, because a lot of us don't want to commit. And there's this thing that I call the commitment ladder. And there's 5 rungs on this ladder. The bottom rung, and I think I've talked about this before, but the bottom rung is I need to or I want to. You want to get on the other side. You want to start to commit to something new. You want to start to do something new, but you're still on that egotistical side of not wanting to look like a beginner, not wanting to start from ground zero, not wanting to learn and be truly coachable. And so you're like, yeah, I need to, but I'm really just not committed to do it. Then there's I'll try. The I'll try rung is already giving yourself a way out. You've already quit. You've already said this isn't for me. You've already said this is too difficult. You've already said this is too inconvenient. And as soon as that difficulty or inconvenience hits, you're going to give yourself that side door to kind of step out of it. And that's the downside where a lot of us find ourselves. And how you can trigger this is like, think about the last time you said, I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. I'll try. I know I say it a lot of times in different areas of my life, and I've had to eliminate that language from my repertoire. I've had to completely get rid of the concept of I'll try. And then the third rung is I'll do it until. You'd be like, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to start doing these runs until I start traveling. I'm going to do these runs until they start to get too difficult. I'll do these runs until my ego kicks up again. I'll do these runs until, and you're not willing to do the work. You're not willing to do the intrinsic work. You're not willing to have the deep conversations. You're not willing to truly go to the places that you need to in order to get into being somebody new. And then the fourth rung is that yes or no. This is where we start to actually see some change happen, because you're like, yes, I'm going to commit to this. Yes, this is what I'm going to do. This is my best yes, and I'm here for it. Or there's no, you know what? I'm just not ready for that. I'm just not signing up for that. Like, it could have been very simple after I stepped away from Hight Rocks and really training that way. And I could have said, you know what? I'm not going to compete at anything. I'm not going to learn anything new. I'm just going to get lazy. I'm going to get complacent. I'm just going to stay where I am. But that never happened because I wanted to learn. I wanted to come back to ground zero. I wanted to get to that start line and have zero expectations and just be in a new place in a new season. And then the fifth rung is where all the power happens. And it's whatever it takes. Being willing to do whatever it takes, knowing that it's going to be difficult, knowing it's going to not be simple, knowing that it might be complex at times, knowing that it's going to be inconvenient, knowing that you're going to look like a beginner, knowing that you're going to make errors, knowing that it's going to plateau at times, knowing there's going to be highs and lows, but saying that you're here for all of it. And when you can truly commit and be in a whatever it takes mentality, that is when everything starts to change. That's when you move forward powerfully. That's when you get really excited and you feel the fire inside again. And that was where I got over the course of that 2023 and beginning of 2024 year, is I got to a place where I was like, you know what? I've gone through this and I'm excited to step into something new, which takes us to step 3 is you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You see, what happened for me over the course of this year or a year and a half was, as much as I had been doing so well in these races, what I had ultimately done is I had started to get comfortable and complacent with where I was. And so what I noticed with my training going into these races was I really wasn't pushing myself, really wasn't taking myself out of this degree of comfort, wasn't doing the hard thing every single day. And because I wasn't doing the hard thing, because I wasn't getting uncomfortable, I really wasn't preparing at the level in which I needed. And because I wasn't preparing at the level in which I needed, the expectation that I had on myself was not ultimately going to be reached. And I knew it deep down every single time I stepped up to the line as we started to keep going through. Because my first few races, when I won US championships, when I went to Worlds, now all of a sudden you've got a name. Now all of a sudden people are chasing you. Now all of a sudden people are setting you as the standard. And to maintain that required me to do a certain degree of training and a certain degree of efforts that, quite frankly, I was shying away from. And so as I was going through this, stepping into something new allowed me to get uncomfortable again, allowed me to feel, man, like this is different. And that level of discomfort allowed me to understand what it felt like to win again. There was nothing like crossing our quote unquote finish line on a 14-mile run on a Saturday morning. When all of a sudden you cross that finish line, you're like, I did it. I accomplished this. I did that hard thing. It's nothing like going through that CrossFit workout and having my heart rate at 190 beats per minute for 7 minutes and finishing your last rep and collapsing to the floor and being like, man, I did it. I did it. That starts to change something in your mentality. It starts to change something in how you show up. It starts to change something in how you think, which takes us to number 4, which is to do hard things or get uncomfortable in community. Because that's the other thing that I started to notice as I reflected back, is that I would do a lot of my training on my own. I would do these hard things on my own, and getting myself up to go and push at that level every single day by myself took a massive toll. Yes, it created discipline. Yes, it fostered character. Yes, it built a strong mindset. But going on your own at that pace for that amount of time is really, really hard. And that's the thing that started to stand out. That's the thing that started to drag me down. That's the thing that started to wear me out. That's the thing that started to create fear and anxiety, because certain beliefs would come into my mind, certain feelings would start to happen, and I had nobody to lean on. I had nobody to communicate with. I had nobody to turn to. And it wasn't until I got back into community going on these long runs with a group of people, getting into the CrossFit gym, having David, Kai, and JP here every single morning to train and start to do these things together, created this breakthrough that showed me again, hey, you can do hard things. You are strong. You are powerful. You are confident. You can win. You are determined. You can overcome. All of these things started to break through. And so when we think about these 4 areas, when we talk about humility, dropping your ego, when we talk about committing, when we talk about doing the hard thing and getting uncomfortable, and then doing the hard thing and getting uncomfortable in community, it's those 4 things that just became massive breakthroughs for me. And realizing that once I started to do that, once I started to actually engage in that, I missed what I was doing before. Because I was like, you know what? I learned through this. I did a triathlon. I did a marathon. I did a little mini CrossFit competition. I've been training hard every single day. But now it's time to start and step up to another start line. It's now time to compete again. It's now time to push the limits again, push the boundaries again. And so 2 weeks ago, I made the decision and I announced that I was going to go and run Hight Rocks in November in Dallas, November 23rd. And I talked to David, I talked to Kai, I talked to JP, I talked to a lot of our redeemed community. And there's a lot of guys that are going to come and do it. There's a lot of guys that are going to come and show up on race day. There's a lot of guys that are going to step up to that start line for the first time. And they're now going to look like the beginners. They're going to look like they're doing something new. And when I did the first week of Hight Rocks training, as I programmed it, and David, Kai, and JP and I went through it all, David said something to me at the end of week 1 that just stood out. And he said, man, does this ever feel good to win? And I just get goosebumps because each and every one of you listening deserves to win. You're built to win. You're created to win. But to win, you have to do the hard thing. To win, you have to be humble. To win, you have to commit. To win, you have to get uncomfortable. To win, you have to get uncomfortable in community. And my heart goes out to you because in the world of business, in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world of leadership, so often you feel that winning feeling only at the office, only in work. That's why you keep going back, because you show up humble there. Notice, you show up humble. You show up different at your office and at your work and with your team and with your employees than you do in your own family, because you show up humble there. You've dropped your ego. You commit. You're fully committed to your business. You're fully committed to where you're trying to go, but you're not fully committed to your health. You're not fully committed to your family. It's not high on the priority list. Falls below business every single time. You want to take that phone call, or do you want to sit at dinner? Do you want to take that phone call, or do you want to get your workout in? You want to send that email, or you want to get your quality night's sleep in? And then we know you do the hard thing in business because you show up every single day. You get uncomfortable every single day. You make difficult decisions. You have difficult conversations. You have to sit through maybe cash flow tightness. You have to sit through and you overcome every single time. You problem solve. You cast vision. You run into roadblocks and you overcome. And then we know you do it in community because you got a great team. You built the team. And so you continue to go back to work. You continue to go back to the business. You continue to strive in that one area and push and push and push and push, but fail to see that if you were able to use the same things that you already do so well in business, in your health and in your fitness, that it would transcend your entire life in a powerful way. But it requires you to drop the ego and be humble. It requires you to fully commit. It requires you to do the hard thing, to get uncomfortable. And it requires you to do that in community. And that's why we built Redeemed. That's why we built Own It. That's why Redeemed lives within Own It. That's why Own It is all about community, helping people understand what's there. Our Redeemed events, it gets people in person. It gets us uncomfortable together. It helps us growing. Nobody shows up with egos. And it's a weekend. It's 3 days because I need you to commit. It's no different than why when we talk about our Own It programming, that people can't just come in for a month or 2 months. It's a 6-month commitment to create real change. And there's a reason why we have an 87% retention rate, is because people don't want to leave community. When community is aligned with no ego, when community is aligned, getting uncomfortable, when community is aligned in full commitment, it becomes a family, and we're here for it. And so as you're listening to this, maybe you've forgotten what it feels like to win on a daily basis. Maybe you've forgotten what it feels like to overcome. Maybe you've forgotten that winning feeling. And I challenge you, it's not going to come from pushing harder in business. It's not going to come from diving deeper into your emails. It's going to come from doing those 4 things. And so if this hits you, if this strikes you, if this is there for you, I encourage you to reach out. Go to ownitcoaching.com. Reach out, get into our community. Step up and grab some of our coaching team. Inquire about redeemed events so that you can start and step up and lean into something new. Because I'll tell you what, we've got close to 50 guys that are coming to step up and do this redeemed event that is completely new. We've got them all training this way, and they're like, man, I'm breaking through things that I've never done before. I'm doing things I've never done before. I thought I was training hard and doing hard things before, but this is completely different. This is in a whole different area in an arena. And I feel like I'm winning, overcoming, and growing every single day. And that's the thing that's fun, because you were built to win. You were built to overcome. You were built to grow. You were built to be strong. You were built to be powerful. But unless you tap into that, unless you use it, you forget about it. Things within the body, things that you do physically, things that you experience mentally, they hit differently, because we know the Holy Spirit lives inside of us. And anything done against our body is a bigger impact than something done externally. Winning in your business doesn't hit the same as winning in your body. Winning in your business doesn't hit the same as winning with something physically, because it's not something that was done to you. When something happens to you inside, you leave different, and it transcends into every area of your life. And so as you're listening to this, I encourage you to take a step back and say, where can I grow? Where do I need to win again? Where do I need to start overcoming? Where do I need to start pushing? I had to do it. I continue to have to do it. I continue to have to revisit it. And as I continue to revisit it, as I continue to keep looking at it, and as I continue to keep thinking about it, I will always come back to those 4 steps: dropping the ego and getting humble, fully committing to the process, making sure that I'm getting uncomfortable, and then doing it in community. We know success is different, so own your different. I will see you guys next week.